In this video, I am going to show you that this phone is capable of anything a DSLR camera can fulfill.
Someone's just told the internet to throw away their DSLRs and instead just use phones. And maybe on the surface they've got a point in some scenarios. The phone they use, the Vivo X300 Ultra, is pretty impressive. But there's a few things I think that the video either misses the point on or just flat out gets wrong, at least in my opinion. And one of the points, using a camera that's under 100 quid and a lens that's under 100 quid, you can beat out any of these smartphones and their computational photography. So who am I? Well, my name's Chris. I'm a hobbyist photographer based in North Wales. I mainly use my Nikon Z6 III to do things like landscape, trying to get into wildlife, bit of macro, all sorts of different types of photography. I'm not a professional, I'm not paid by anyone, and I actually haven't used this Vivo phone, but I have used a number of different smartphones across the years. Things like the Lumias with their 41 megapixels and Xenon flashes, and I've got a Z Fold 7 these days. And this debate about smartphones versus professional cameras, it's been going around in my head for a while, and I have a few thoughts on it. In the past, I've wanted smartphone cameras, you know, to be able to replace cameras in some ways, professional cameras, but I'm just not sold on the idea. So while I want to be convinced, I'm not sure I am. So first thing first, what's the phone that we're talking about? It's the Vivo X300 Ultra. It's got 200 megapixel cameras, sensors. It's got 4K 120 Dolby Vision on both of the lenses. In fact, every rear lens has got it. And it also can record in 10-bit log with LUT preview, which is pretty impressive. You know, that's pretty good. There's also an optional add-on extra to get a 400mm Zeiss lens, which I think works out at 1600mm equivalent, which is pretty mental when you think about it, but I have some thoughts about that. So who's that video made by an average dad? Who's that actually made for? Now, it is probably for an average dad, not necessarily someone who's into photography. And the point he's making is kind of, in a way, already backed up by the data. Like 93% of images apparently are taken on smartphones these days. And between 2010 and 20, the sales of these type of cameras has dropped by like 90%. It's pretty crazy. And, you know, people sometimes will think, okay, I'll go and buy myself a nice new actual proper camera, and they do it around things like a wedding, take it for like an occasion. And for a lot of people, it'll just be put back into a cupboard and not used again in the future. People will just move straight to their smartphones. It's there, it's convenience in their pocket, and they'll take tons of snapshots rather than intentional photographs. So if you're just there trying to take casual pictures of your family, then that's what most people do. And I've said in previous videos on this channel, you know, I might go out there with this camera, might try and take a picture of my niece or whatever, have some nice bokeh, great colours, put it through an edit. But realistically, people aren't really that fussed about it. They've taken like 20 pictures on their smartphone. They'll have pictures they're happy with already, and they want to show the pictures that they've taken. So the tide has sort of shifted a bit. Mobile phones have already won the battle in that case, which is, in some ways, it's a bit sad. But they've won the battle on snapshots, not necessarily on taking intentional photographs. But if you're watching this channel, you're probably more interested in photography than smartphones. Unless, of course, you're here for the smartphone content. But there's a good chance that you're here for the photography. Or so you're more likely to have gone out and gone deeper into the process of making photographs. You're more likely to have gone out into bad weather, investigated all the different types of lenses you can try for different systems, different accessories. And that's more what it's about than taking random snapshots of family events. Not that those aren't important. So the video talks about how impressive the pictures are coming out of the Vivo X300 Ultra. And if you look at the video in low resolution, they do look good. But when you actually blow it up into 4K and view it at full resolution, there's quite a few problems. But first, let's just start with bokeh. So I'm a big fan of bokeh. What you use correctly, you know, you wouldn't necessarily always use it in a landscape shot because you're trying to take a nice big picture of a wide vista. But, I mean, this guy behind me, you can't hear me. This guy here, taking pictures of him, you definitely want some nice, smooth bokeh. And bokeh comes as a characteristic of different lenses. Now, as an example, this here is a mirror lens. This is a Tamron 500mm f8 manual focus mirror lens. And the bokeh on this, a lot of people don't like it. It comes out as like little donuts. And some of the pictures I got, I'll throw one up on screen right now when I was in Scotland just this last week or so. It very distracting, very horrible. However, on a lens like this, really nice, smooth bokeh. When it comes to smartphone computational bokeh, not only is it clearly fake, and you can often notice it just from the fact that the foreground is often completely always in focus up to the subject, and then beyond it is obliterated. There's often a lot of problems with like things like foliage, hair. Masking it can be hit and miss. And in fact, I'm looking here, there are some reports in reviews on it that they have the same problem in the X300, that around foliage, there's a bit of paint spill of where they've tried to paint the bokeh on and off, and it can look really distracting. Whereas if you do it with something like this, even on this camera, less than 100 quid, 50 quid, you can get nice bokeh results. And in fact, I'll throw up now a picture which has come from this here, showing the kind of fall off of the how the focus is like. And this is on a 15-year-old camera, and it's not a huge megapixel, right? So smartphones these days are going 200 megapixels, but their sensor's smaller. The sensor's bigger than a smartphone, but it's only 10 or 12 megapixels, but the quality is just... There is a difference between resolution and quality. There's a difference between character and digital post-processing. And one thing, actually, is that computational photography is good in some respects. Sometimes it kind of spoils it a little bit. You point a Samsung phone at the moon when you first did it, and you zoom in on the moon, and it shows you the moon. You're like, wow, this is epic. Then you realize it's computational. It's putting the picture of the moon in there, and it kind of ruins it for you. I never really bothered doing it again. So since I've been using like the 500mm lens to try and get a nice picture of the moon. In fact, here's one now. I'll pop it up on screen. I've just recently, this is my most recent attempt at moon photography. But in this video, one of the things he calls out is he shows a wide shot and says, in the background, there's a motorway sign. I'll play the clip now.
This is incredible. Here's where I'm standing, and I want you to pay particular attention to like way off in the distance. There's an overhead road arch, and it's got a sign, and it's got a pole. Anyway, here it is. Wow. Just wow. So you tell me.
But when you zoom in on that motorway sign, well, it's a watercolor, really. If you look at it closely, it's really just guessed a lot of detail. And the only reason it looks vaguely like what it is, it's a simple shape. It's just a grey color with straight outlines, so it's filled in the gaps. And when you're trying to do something, he says 1600mm, at any camera or anything you do at that range, the real problems like heat haze and like clarity, just haze in the distance. It's one of the problems I've been having this last week in Scotland. Orkney was in the distance, but it was just pure haze. So even with 500mm and a full frame sensor, just haze and heat haze going across the landscape cause all manner of problems. Every camera has this, and maybe you're happy that your phone recomputes stuff and merges things back together, and maybe you're lucky and it keeps the detail. Maybe you're unlucky and the people at a distance look like a bit of a watercolor. I don't want to use examples of his sort of family that he's shown in his video, but there was one person in the background where their face looks... The two people in the subject look great, but in the background, the face is just off. And the thing with, if you're going to use real glass, if you're going to use something like this, is only a 200mm lens, but if you're going to use a full frame sensor and real glass, and the ability to control the aperture, to control the shutter speed, potentially mount it on a tripod to keep it steady, you have more control over all aspects of that. What do you want to be in focus? What do you not want to be in focus? Rather than letting the phone take over and do all that for you. So it's impressive it exists, but when you actually look at it, I'm not sure it's necessarily as usable as it appears at first glance. Let's just talk cost for a second. So I'm looking here. So the phone itself, it costs about £1,740 is what it looks to sort of convert to. If you want to get the Zeiss adapter, it puts up to £2,320. And the full kit, if you buy the whole everything, is about £2,755. So, but there's a problem here. You would have to grey market import that if you're in the UK. It's not sold here. It's not sold in every market. So that leaves you with a very expensive piece of kit that you don't have a warranty or support for. So the suggestion to throw away, your main camera for use of something that isn't supported, and you would have to import, and hopefully you get a new version and not like a reused or a brick in the post. You're going to have to put a lot of trust in your grey market importer there. And if it goes wrong, you don't have a warranty. That's probably a deal breaker to a lot of people. It definitely is for me. Even if you just look at the phone only and you don't buy the additional lenses that come with it. It's about $1,500 for a Z6 III these days, thereabouts. Pretty alright compared to when it first came out. You can get it in a lot of places for about that much. So that, the phone and the body, well, it's another 400 quid for the lens adapters. So, an example, an 85mm Viltrox looks to be about 500 quid, and a 20mm is about 140. All in, I suppose, compared with the phone and the adapters, that's about similar. Or if you're looking into getting into the hobby in general, you could go down the route of getting an older DSLR, which has the benefit of having this sound here, which is pretty incredible. And with that, you could buy all sorts of different lenses with different price points. You know, there are macro lenses here. So this is a Sigma 105 Nikon F mount, and it cost me 200 quid. This is a macro lens, great for capturing up close. You've got wide angle lenses. This was about just under £200. Great for astrophotography, something that it might likely would be better than the phone from the wide angle lens from experience. Computational photography struggles to make up on the wide angle, the really wide angle star tracking shots. And there are classic lenses like this. This is a Nikon AFD, and this cost me about 150. It's slightly damaged on the rear element, but it still takes really characterful images, and it zooms a bit slightly differently, but it works autofocus on the older bodies. So you get a lot of options in terms of cheaper lenses in the old F-mount systems. So we talked a lot about the kind of my technical problems, right? About computational photography and the cost and the practicalities of importing it. But at the essence of it, the real problem is it's snapshots versus photographs. And it's something I've been thinking about for a while, as I hinted to about the family taking pictures with their phones and me taking a picture with my camera. There are, now that we've got a camera in our pocket every day, there are two types of camera usage. There are snapshots where you're capturing a moment that you might want to relive in the future, and it's just done within a few seconds. You may look at it again, you may never look at it again. It may just fill your cloud storage up with absolute tons of these things. But there's nothing wrong with that, and it's great now. It's great that everyone has the ability now to just record the moment whenever they want to. A photograph, though, is making an image. It's purposeful. It's deciding what should and shouldn't be in focus, composing what should and shouldn't be in the frame, even thinking about, you know, does the character of this lens, or in fact, you know, an older lens, a more vintage lens like that. A photograph is waiting for the light, potentially, thinking ahead about a location, or maybe setting up a studio with different lighting sources to sort of pose a model, or walking around a street and looking for things happening and seeing how the light you cast through the scene, and maybe there's a doorway and you're waiting for someone to walk through it or something. It's more thoughtful, as pretentious as this might sound. There's a difference, isn't there, between like the throwaway sort of snapshots, which you take tons of, and something which you take a picture of that you might want to go back to. You might want to put it on the wall. I mean, you could put the snapshots on the wall as well, right? And I think, you know, as an example, there's an image which he puts up, and I'll play the clip, and he talks about how when you take images like this, why do you need a DSLR? So this is his shot.
I've taken with really no experience. Yeah, I'd be happy to have these framed somewhere or blown up somewhere.
And then compare that with, I went out to St. John's Point, and I thought about it, and I was looking around for places, and I was thinking, I'm near the very top of Scotland, and there's St. John's Point, and there's loads of different little sea stacks. And I went, and I got it. I was like, okay, right, the sun's going to come out around the side, and it was go below the cloud layer at about like 6-7 o'clock at night. So I went there. The wife sat in the car patiently, and I took this image. And it isn't the best image anyone's ever taken, but if you put them side by side, you know, one of them is a snapshot, and it's saying the quality is good because potentially the amount of pixels in it is high, but one of them is more like a photograph. And I'm not saying you need to buy a Hasselblad, you know, or you need to spend tens of thousands of pounds on camera gear. You can do absolutely fine on very inexpensive older cameras as long as you buy one that works. Don't buy a Nikon D80, they have problems. Something like a D300, a more professional body, is definitely the way to go if you want to go cheap. Or the Z5 II for about £1,000. That's do it really good as a camera. But this is the thing that Gen Z now, they've been rejecting a lot of this computational photography, this ultra processed smartphone cameras. A lot of them are actively going back to small little point and shoot cameras just to try and get something, I guess, more authentic. So the very thing that is potentially trying to sell this phone is pushing more modern audiences back already. That's the thing at the end of the day, isn't it? You know, your snapshot, you just pull your phone out, you take the shot. Although I would argue if you have to clip on that 400mm lens, you've had to pull your phone out your pocket, you've had to quickly make sure, did I put the right case on today? Did I put the big clunky lens case on? Have I got like dust from my pocket inside on the lens? I'll put the 400mm and then take the picture. So there's a little bit of friction there, but when it comes to getting into actual photography, the actual amount of friction that's involved, do I take the tripod? Do I use some filters, like an ND filter maybe, or a polarizer? Do I get the tripod? Do I wait for the light? Do I go out in the weather? Is it in the middle of the day with the maybe I don't want the harsh light of the midday? That friction makes it more rewarding in the end, or at least it can be. Or it can also be frustrating, but that's part of the thing about hobbies. They can be all of that, right? So the Vivo X300, it might be the best smartphone camera that's ever been made. And for the person who's got a DSLR, a mirrorless camera in the cupboard that they bought for a wedding and they haven't used since, something like a smartphone, yeah, it's the perfect camera for them. Just to record their life, capture the moments for their family, and send them on. And you might even start getting into photography or something like that to give you more options. But of course, if you're in the UK, you actually have to find somewhere to buy one and hope that it doesn't break. But then if you want to decide, what is sharp, what should be in and out of focus, what character do I want to add to the image, then that's when you shouldn't throw these away. If you're more into that, then you should definitely stay with the larger sensors, more options, more control. No phone is going to give you this amount of control of your image. And especially no phone is going to deliver that for the value you can get out of an older DSLR system. So if this is the kind of interesting, more honest, as honest as I could be, take on this kind of stuff, and you've been enjoying this video, feel free to subscribe. I've got a whole bunch more stuff like it on the channel. A mixture of stuff about Android tablets, phones, cameras, you name it. I'm trying to provide an interesting take on this stuff, at least I hope it is. So what surprised me, it is nice that the camera's got consistent video settings across all of the lenses. That is one of the problems you have on phones these days, unless you're an iPhone user, but it's definitely on Android. There's a lot of inconsistent formats. So if you're going to get into video, that's probably a good thing, especially with the log. The grading live as well, excellent. That genuinely good features. But where did the video go wrong? I think a lot of the pictures were taken in ideal conditions, didn't necessarily take it out into a landscape situation with potentially low light or even rain and wind. And as well, I think it relies on not punching up the video to full resolution just to look at some of the images and see some of the flaws that are there in them. So what's next for me? Well, I have been thinking about doing my own comparison of, I've actually got an older Lumia 10, is it 1020? Can't remember, it's been ages. The big one with a massive 40 megapixel camera. I've got the Z Fold 7. I've got a cheaper camera. I've got an older DSLR and a mirrorless camera. I've been thinking of doing my own comparison, maybe take it up a hill and sort of say what can we do with these different systems. So if you find that interesting, just drop me a message in the comments below and I'll put it on the list. I've got a lot of videos in the works at the moment. So there's a few other videos on the channel. There's a review of this guy here. There's a review of this guy here. Stick around if you like this kind of content. Whack that subscribe button, and no beef with the average dad. He's clearly very excited about that camera phone, but I think, as I've set out in this video, I don't think it's a replacement yet for these. I really do think it's going to be a struggle for smartphones to replace the versatility of, how can you fit that much glass into a small little body? Just physics. It's just physics. I know that's the line that a lot of people use, but it's true at the end of the day. Light gathering on a larger sensor. I mean, just look at the size. Just look at the size of the sensors. Yeah. Either way, thank you very much for watching. I've been Chris. My dog's been pestering me. You might have seen me in the video, and signing off. See you in the next video.